Chapter 640, Commonality. On the street adorned with the words Chilicasco in Deutonese, Lumion led Camus and the rest of the patrol team into the apartment, crafted from dark black stones and brown wood. The moment he swung open the door to Bram's room, a blend of charred scent and the tang of blood wafted through the air. Corpse fragments lay strewn across the floor, the walls tainted with a mixture of blood and flesh. Handprints, crimson and searing marks adorned every surface. Camus's eyes widened, as if thrust back into the midst of a serial killing. Yet this was a level of devastation beyond even that. Turning to Lumion, Camus, despite already anticipating the grim answer, habitually inquired, "Where's that person's body?" Lumion gestured towards the scattered remains and minced meat, responding with a grim smile, "All of these." Camus fell into a momentary silence before signaling his two stunned teammates to examine the scene. He had promised to share a portion of the bounty with them, making them witnesses to his merits. Camus hadn't ventured alone, wary that this might be a trap set by Louis Barry, an assassination attempt by the Rose School of Thought, or other secret organizations targeting the patrol team. In the southern continent, vigilance was a necessity. Approaching a cupboard, Camus fixated his gaze on lips soaked in preservatives, the tragic fate of the victims replaying in his mind. After a moment of silence, Louis Barry spoke calmly. "Bram is a member of the Devil family and Dariel. He was instructed by the Rose School of Thought to gather information in Port Pylos and carry out the serial murders. His uncle Davajo was supposed to be his contact, but they never actually met. Instead, he left the information he collected in the study of an empty house at 17 Alec Street." W.H. Camus and the others were initially startled, then deeply puzzled. How does Louis Barry possess such detailed knowledge? Camus couldn't help but glance at the scattered corpse pieces, the blood-soaked walls, the handprints on the ground, and the various charred marks. Eventually, his gaze settled on Lumion's face. Lumion responded with a warm smile curling his lips. Camus and his two companions exchanged glances, refraining from questioning whether Louis Barry obtained the information through spirit channeling, torture, or if he had discerned Bram's motives from the start. Louis's pursuit of the serial murderer wasn't solely due to a criminal act. "This intel is crucial," Camus nodded, gesturing towards the severely damaged 6-barrel machine gun in the room. "We need to secure Bram's weapon." "No problem," Lumion replied casually. Being a pyromaniac, firearms held little appeal for him. Fireballs proved far more potent than the rapid fire of a 6-barrel machine gun, just not as swift. Beside Resurrection Square, on Cania Street, on the second floor of the patrol team's 4-story building. Camus placed the dossier and related items on the table in front of Lumion, emphasizing, "You can only read and record. Taking it away or damaging it is not an option." Lumion nodded subtly, taking one of the envelopes, unwinding the thread a few times, and carefully opening it. Rather than hastily perusing the contents, he first extracted the dossier, giving it a thorough read. The dense dossier meticulously outlined the identities, origins, possible pathways, sequences, locations of death, the scene's conditions, and the varied speculations and investigations conducted by the patrol team. It was clear the patrol team had been diligent in their investigations, especially when new victims kept emerging. Daily operations varied until the serial murders appeared to cease, leading to a slackening of efforts. They gradually reduced the frequency of case studies and large-scale visit trips. After 6 months, investigations reached a standstill, concluding the dossier. In the final report, the vice captain overseeing the matter concluded, "This is a classic serial murder case committed by the Devil pathway. Though serial killers seldom target only 7 individuals, as more victims enhance the ritual's efficacy, this time, all victims are beyonders, including mid-sequence beyonders. Even with just 7 deaths, they are more favored by devils, pleasing them more than 14 or even 20 ordinary people. The main question in this mystic case is that, aside from being beyonders, there's no common thread among the 7 victims. This sets it apart from previous serial murders. We hypothesize that the 7 victims were active beyonders in West Balham, likely having committed some form of killing in the past. It can be seen as a manifestation of depravity. Lumian read it meticulously, concurring with the theory that 7 Beyonders surpassed 14 ordinary individuals in devil. Pleasing rituals. This wasn't new information to him. After all, ordinary people were only the third best sacrifice, while creatures with Beyonder characteristics ranked second. Similar situations arose in specific acts, particularly those requiring feedback. It was akin to deciphering an angel's conspiracy, allowing Lumian to assimilate a potion more effectively than an ordinary person's intrigue. Having grasped a general understanding of the entire serial murder case, Lumian delved into gathering information about the 7 Beyonders. Synthesizing Anthony's psychological profile of Hisoka, Franca's archetype summary, and her speculations about the actor, he scoured for potential commonalities. Among the Beyonders were both men and women, one under Admiral Quiraril, while another was a death believer residing in Port Pylos. Foreign adventurers, an Intis Republic spy stationed in Matani, a peripheral member of the Rose School of Thought, and a local clergyman of the God of Steam and Machinery Church were also among the list. Judging by their identities and backgrounds, they seemingly had nothing in common. Yet for Lumian, who read with subjective conjectures, subtle details held significance. All 7 victims were young, with the oldest in his early 30s, widely praised for combat talent and outstanding intelligence. Lumian mused to himself. Are the targets Beyonders who are young, filled with potential, and have already reached a certain level of maturity? Even the 2 who weren't particularly young bore the label of being famous, powerful, with limitless potential. Lumian gained a rough understanding of Hisoka's selection criteria. If Franca were present, she might have noted that it matched the characteristics of the original archetype. However, Lumian believed Hisoka would adhere to the archetype when it suited him, not letting it dictate his true motives. Mad Lady's evaluation of Hisoka as not being pure enough further supported Lumian's perspective. Considering the selection criteria, Lumian thought Louis Barry fits Hisoka's homicidal fetish. He clicked his tongue and retrieved items related to the case from the official envelopes. Most were the victim's belongings, but there were also 7 thin aluminum foils stained with blackish-brown substances that didn't belong to this group. Described in the case file, they were wrappings for the local chocolate, left at each crime scene. It was suspected that the murderer would peel off the thin foil after success, indulging in a piece of chocolate before dissecting the corpse. As the murderer used a gloved hand to extract and consume the chocolate, no corresponding traces were left on the thin foil. Such chocolates were common in Matani, making tracking difficult. Lumian studied the thin aluminum foil before smiling at Camus, who supervised him. "Can I take 2 or 3? Camus, with his brown hair, furrowed his brow. "If you want to use divination or other Beyonder methods, you can do it here." "Just 2, it won't hinder your future investigations," Lumian said enticingly. "If you agree to help, I'll give you an additional reward. For example, a very useful summoning incantation for a spirit world creature." Camus fell silent briefly before agreeing, "Deal." More than 15 minutes later, Camus, having brought Lumian out to purchase chocolate-like items, observed with a bewildered expression as a rabbit-shaped spirit world creature, adeptly copied the dossiers with a fountain pen. After nearly a minute, Camus shifted his gaze to Lumian, leisurely sitting on the side, peeling off the thin aluminum foil and savoring a piece of dark brown chocolate. He inquired in a deep voice, "Is this the very useful spirit world creature you mentioned?" Lumian, chewing on the fragrant chocolate, responded with a smile, "Yes, it's one of the rabbits of knowledge. It can help you evade the labor of copying." "What do I need such a copying tool for?" Camus bellowed inwardly, but he restrained himself as he recalled the bounty for the serial murders and the grisly scene of Bram's demise. Lumian added with a smile, "When you prefer to keep the origin of your words hidden, summon the rabbit of knowledge for assistance. Moreover, this is a growth-oriented spirit world creature. It evolves based on the knowledge it receives. Of course, it's ideal if you can secure a contract with the spirit world creature. Otherwise, each summoned rabbit of knowledge might differ, making nurturing impossible. Growth-oriented, Camus echoed the term, his expression gradually softening. Back at Hotel Orella, Lumian retrieved the 2 old aluminum foils from his pocket and handed one to Ludwig. "Try eating these," he suggested with a smile.